Hello YouTube, I'm David with the David West channel. Well, today I wanted to show you another style of my hobo stove that you can build. Everything that I've shown you so far has been out of these 1-gallon cans, which you can find these 1-gallon cans at the grocery stores, usually on the bottom shelf. Like at Walmart, they'll be on the bottom shelf, several different kinds of beans or peanuts, and as you know, if you've watched my other 3 videos, I always use the 1-gallon can that has the green beans in them. But I've had people tell me that they cannot find those 1-gallon green bean cans. You can get them from grocery stores, bakeries sometimes have them if you go in there and ask for them. But so usually I recommend to those people that can't find these to use a paint can. Now, I've been recommending something that I've never tried myself, and there are a few challenges to my typical design when you use a paint can, but I think I figured out how we can deal with that. This lip around here, I'm going to cut it out with my Swiss Army knife, the can opener on my Swiss Army knife. Then I'll have nice straight walls like this, and I can proceed on as usual. I don't see any use for this handle right here other than these 2 knobs sticking out in this handle is going to let people see that this hobo stove is made out of a paint can, and I like that. That's the only remnant that's going to be left that makes you think this is a paint can, and so therefore that's the only reason I'm leaving this handle on. So I bought all my materials the other day, and I took some video of the different stores, Lowe's, Ace, Home Depot, where I bought this stuff from. I've got $25 in materials, but it may even cost you more because you may not have the drill bits, the step bits, the files, all the tools it's going to take to build this. But if you do, you can get out for $25 worth of materials. Now that'll build more than just one stove. I imagine this expanded metal, and especially this sheet metal, I imagine you get 3 stoves easy out of it. So then the cost per unit, of course, goes way down, $8 a piece. So while I'm laying all this out, I want to try to give you some idea of the tools that you'll need. So while I'm organizing that and laying all that out, let me show you the video of where I bought all these materials. And here's the 1-gallon containers. And as you've seen in my previous videos, I usually make it out of green bean can, but you have several choices there. This will be the first time I've made one out of a 1-gallon paint can though. I usually use these containers. Let's go shopping. All right, right here on aisle 6 in the paint department at Lowe's. And I've already picked up the paint can yesterday from Home Depot. And it was $5 also. All right. 3/8 by 1.5 inches. I wanted to go 3/8 by 2 inch. But I didn't need any shank, I needed them threaded all the way up. So we'll get 4 of these. 63324. And we'll get 4 nuts. 63303. And some sheet metal screws to hold that elevated floor. And a piece of sheet metal for the pot holder. This sheet metal is 8 inch by 24 inch, 22 gauge. And let me show you, they don't have the right size. They don't have the right size expanded metal. So I'm gonna have to go over to Home Depot. This would have been the right size expanded metal here, and they're out of it. They just have this big one. So we'll go to Home Depot and see if they have this little one here. And there's a 3-pack of step bits. They're very expensive. That's why I keep using my dull one. But I think I got a 3-pack over at Harbor Freight for under $20. So I was looking for the Lowe's brand of a step bit. I guess they have one around here somewhere, but I didn't find it. So let's go to Home Depot, see if we can find that expanded metal. Now, if Home Depot doesn't have it, I'm gonna have to call around the other Lowe's stores in the next city over. Hopefully they'll have it. I want to double check the price of their step bits here also. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, 1/2-inch spaces, 12 inches by 24. I think that was the $9 price. Now let's go see what their step bits cost here at Home Depot. Whoa, just one for 40 bucks. You better stick with Harbor Freight. That's a 3/4, that's the size we'll be using today. But I assure you I got a 3-pack for under $20 at Harbor Freight. All right, 1/2-round file for all the burrs that's going to be on that can. Square, combination square just for the straight edge. I got something stuck to the top of that. I got some glue stuck to the top of that. Good night, I had a bunch of glue stuck to the top of that. And tin snips. Might need this for a little bit of scraping. Hammer. 8-inch extension, 9/16 socket. For those 3/8 bolts. Ratchet. Now I use this knife as a scratch-all. When we go to make the pot supports out of that sheet metal, that's what we'll use this for. And probably just use these little needle nose vice grips to back hole the nut, center punch, and let me get my drill. I don't have my drill. And my cordless drill. I bought a 3/16 drill bit as for a sharp bit. I didn't think that I had a sharp 3/16 as a pilot hole for this step bit, because the 1/4 inch, the first step 1/4 inch is too dull to punch its own hole anymore, but the other steps do well. So this is from 1/4 to 3/4. All of these holes are going to be 3/4. And let's go ahead and cut this rim off. I don't want to leave the rim because it's going to interfere with the draw. It's going to interfere with my feed hole covering, and it's going to interfere with my pot supports. So I thought about sticking this in a regular can opener that you crank like this, or in an electric one, but I'm not sure that lip is like what those are designed for. So let's just go ahead and cut it off with this. Good old Swiss Army knife. Let's just see if it'll work. Oh yeah. You gotta love the Swiss Army knife. All right, let's lay out to where our holes are going to be on this. We'll make us a measuring device for this can with masking tape. That looks about right. And I want to fold a little tab on this side. Alright, so this will be the length. This will be our circumference. Let's see what the circumference is. $20 3/4. 20 3/4 inches divided by 1.5 inches.
The answer is approximately 13.833.
All right, let's go 1 7/8. That worked out perfectly. So 1 7/8 is the spacing in between the top holes and the bottom holes. Now for our 4 screw holes, sheet metal screw holes, it's going to support the elevated floor. And for our 4 legs, let's see what 4 divided into 20 3/4 is. 20 3/4 inches divided by 4.
The answer is approximately 5.188 inches.
All right, that's 5/8. 3/8. That's 3/8, isn't it? 1/8 is point. Yeah, that's 3/8. 5 3/8. All right. 5 3/8. They're pretty close to the same height, so I'm going to go ahead and use the same center lines. This center line is 1 1/4 inches, and that one's 1 inch. And then we'll do the 1 1/4 center line. Now let's see if we can get some marks up here. I'm just going to avoid these. We're just not going to have any holes here. So let's see what happens if I get in the center of this one. Let's see what happens if I get in the center right here. Will that work? If I get in the center? How's it going to meet up on this side? Okay. So get a hole here. And it's supposed to be one there. Every single stove that you build is going to take some improvising. You're going to have to overcome obstacles. None of these stoves go without a hitch. There's always something to try to compensate for. All right, and this one here, I like to put these holes directly over those holes. So Doesn't have to be perfect. It could just be in the ballpark. Now, if you watch my first few stoves that I made, I didn't worry about everything being, the holes being perfectly centered. But I know there's a lot of perfectionists out there that want to see it done more accurately, so that's the only reason I'm doing this. So there are 4 holes for my feet, my 3/8 inch bolts feet, symmetric, equidistance apart. You see this elevated floor is up on these 4 sheet metal screws. And these sheet metal screws are just right at the top of that row of holes right there. So we can guesstimate that. We know it's 3/8 of an inch up from the center line. Maybe I'll go up to 1/2 inch and put my center line for the 4 sheet metal screws. All right, 1/2 inch up from here is right here. And so my sheet metal screws, let's put a center line right there. Now let's put 4 holes for the sheet metal screw supports. I guess it's on this side, isn't it? That should be far enough away from that hole to work. The problem I run into in the past was this 3/4 inch hole down here being in the way of equidistance on my sheet metal screws. So that mark's going to be good. Yeah. That one and this one. Now all that is equidistance apart. And there's going to be a feed hole slot, which I shouldn't need that anymore. I'll stick it on the end of the table. Now my feed hole slot skeeters. My feed hole slot I want in the center of these two knobs right here. So let's say this is the center, and then I want it to be in the center of here. Which that's 5 inches. That's 2.5. So now all I want to do is come out 2 inches this way. Two inches this way. 4 inches. And it's going to be 2 inches high. All right, 2 inches. It clears mud, isn't it? I don't like 2 inches. Let's go 2.5 inches. So that'd be 1 1/4 and 1 1/4. Let's see what this one is. If it's 2 inches, we'll go. No, that was 2 1/4. So this one's going to be 2.5. I like it. Yeah, that'll be 2.5. Let's do that. There's our feed hole slot. So I'll bore 4 holes in the corner so I get my tin snips in there. All right, now for a whole bunch of pilot holes. Now we'll advance to the step bit. If you don't understand how this is being built or what's going on here, I have 3 other videos that shows how to build different kinds of hobo stoves. This kind here, and this here. That was made out of a stewed tomato can. And I didn't buy expanded metal for this. Yes, I have pot supports up here, expanded metal, but this could be something else. So you may not even have to buy expanded metal if you take the lid that came off of here and perforate it with a bunch of holes. That can be the elevated floor. Like that. So this is my 4th hobo stove build video. All right, let's go ahead and make our 3/4 inch holes. Once again, I need clearance holes for the tin snips to get in here. Let me put my earplugs in. We'll leave it with that smaller hole right there. And this can is just as thin as a regular bean can. I couldn't tell it when that lip was on there because it was so rigid. It's about the same gauge metal. All right, these need to be 3/8. 3/8 is right here. handy dandy vice grips to back hold it. And you want to make sure they're square and that they're splayed out. Now, sits pretty straight, doesn't it? Now you're going to want a drain hole in the very bottom. If you take these stoves in and out of the house, keep them out of the rain, they'll last probably a lifetime, but I'll leave them out in the rain and they only last about a year before they rust out. So, but if they do catch water, you'll need a drain hole right in the bottom. And I like to take and dimple it so that the water will run to that hole. Like that. Let's go ahead and cut out our feed slot.
You have to be careful here. I have tough skin on my hands. But this sheet metal will cut you if you're not careful.
And you might want to take a file and go ahead and take care of these burrs. Looking good, getting there. All right. Let's go ahead and put in our sheet metal screws for that elevated floor to sit on. Good. Now we're ready to make the elevated floor out of this expanded metal. Hold on. We're just going to take and trace it and then make it about a 1/4 inch smaller after I trace it. Can you see it? Make sure you can see that. Yeah. Ain't no need to look at the back side of the table. Let's go right here. Now I'm going to freehand it a 1/4 inch smaller than that. So let's go ahead and cut that out.
Now, if you got a Dremel, of course, it's going to make it a lot easier, isn't it? Now, let's true it up. Let's true it up. Come back here.
Now, will it fit? Elevated floor. Let's go ahead and make a cover for our opening. The cover is going to have to be 5 1/4 by 5 with a tab sticking out the top about 1 inch. Alright, where's 5 1/4 at? I'm sorry, where's 5 at? This right here is 6. So I need 5 1/4. 5 1/4 is right here. Now, we're going to conform it to the shape of the can. Let's see, what did I need right here? 5? Yeah, I needed 5 inches right there. I need 5 1/4 right there. So let's cut 3/4 off the top. All right. I don't need that much tab to stick over the edge, so I'm going to cut off this. And this. And this. And this. Now, let's bend it over. Now it should hang on there like that, so let's conform it to the can. Might do better. Not bad. Now, let me show you this. Make sure I got it. It's round. Let's see. 6 9/16. 6 9/16. Because occasionally these things fall off the table and they get out of round. And that's kind of a wavy circle there. So let me show you. You can't take a pot and set right down on the top of this lid. It messes with the flow and it immediately starts smoking. So I have a pot support, and that's why we bought the sheet metal. So it goes on the can like that, fits down inside of it. Sits on the can like that. So you might think, well, that's just a pot support. In case you have a small pan, it won't go down inside, but no. Anytime you set something, a pot on top of here, I don't care if it's one of those store-bought, snap-together, square-sided ones, you set a pot directly on top of the lip, it's gonna mess with the draw and make it start smoking. So I didn't realize that when I started using this crisscross design here that I got offline somewhere. I only wanted something to hold my smaller pots, but I noticed that it all burns a whole lot better when you don't set the bottom of this pot on here. So these are 1.5 inches, and since they're overlapped like that, I've got like a 3/4 of an inch of space. 3/4 of an inch of space from the top of the can to the bottom of the pot. And that makes it draw a whole lot better. I don't care that you have all these holes around here. It's still gonna affect the draw if you try to set it directly on top. So let's go ahead and make this crisscross pot support out of the sheet metal. And think about this. Think about this in blank. Think about these in blank as if I didn't cut the slots out of them already. First, you'd have to cut a half flap off the center line of both of them just so these two could fit together, right? So that's the first thing. If all of this was blank, you'd want to cut those 2 slots so you could half lap it like that. Then this bottom one, you know, if you're going to get this bottom one to sit down on the can, you've got to come off the center line, and you've got to have slots coming down from the center line this way and this way. So off the center line, you got a slot going up and a slot 2 slots going down. Now when this one fits down in here, now you've got all 3 of them coming off the same center line going down. That may help you figure out what we're doing as we lay them out on the sheet metal. Now, I couldn't find my original pot supports for this Hobo stove. They're around here somewhere. And so last night I just went ahead and used the sheet metal that we'll be using today and just made these up for this. Gotta have them. You've got to have them if you plan on cooking on your Hobo stove. So let's go ahead and lay them out. Here's where I built those 2 off of this 22 gauge sheet metal last night. Built it off of that end. So let's go ahead and lay it out. They're going to be 1.5 inches piece. And the laughable part is I'm going to scribe it with this utility knife. All right, now we need to know where the center is at. Should be about 4 inches, 4 1/32. And we'll scribe that. Now, when you get this can as symmetrical as possible, that right there is 6 9/16. 6 5/8. Let's go with 6 9/16. Half of 6 9/16. Well, let's go with 6 5/8, which will be easier. Off the center line, we want to go We want to go 3 5/16. I want to go 3 5/16. And the same thing over here. Off the center line, we'll go 3 5/16. And that should measure 6 5/8. And it does. Let's scribe that line so it won't get away from us. Now, I know this is hard to follow until you lay a couple of them out. Now when I drill my 3/16 hole right there, I'm expecting the edge of it to come up and hit that line, and the edge of it to come up and hit that line. Those are going to be the two center marks where they half lap into each other. Let's see, center punch. So when I cut these two apart, this 1.5 piece, this 1.5 piece, I'll just take and make a slot down this way and a slot down that way. You'll see. Now, yeah, this one comes down here and down here, and then this one, which is right there, comes down here. And we'll center punch those. You see now why I haven't shown you the pot supports? I don't know how much of this stuff you're going to be able to understand, but you know, if you're mechanically inclined, just a little bit that you see here, even though it's confusing, you ought to be able to take your time with it and figure out what's going on. Let's go ahead and drill those holes. All right. Now, let's go ahead and cut them out. Now, this is just 22 gauge metal, so it's going to bend as we cut it out, but I'm going to straighten everything back out after we get it made up. I'm just going to eyeball it and connect to the side of that hole there and there. And same thing on these. Eyeball it, cut a slot there and there. Now you might say, with this sidewall here only being a 1/16 of an inch, why did you make it 3/16? I've tried to make them with tighter tolerances. As much as these tops want to egg out on you, you need that extra. Just the ease of using them. Alright, now I'll straighten them up a little bit. You can spend as much time on these as you want to. You can make them just as pretty and as true as you want to. I mean, you can make them out of 1/4 inch plate. You can make them out of 1/8 inch plate. This isn't even a 1/16. 22 gauge isn't even a 1/16. But it's unnecessary as far as strength. This is plenty strong enough for what we're trying to accomplish. All right, let's put this on first. And then we'll put this one on. Let me get it over here. Now, these are going to be in the way, so I'm going to cut them off. Let's see. Let's cut them off to right here. Now, let's try that. And it's just a little bit too long, so I want to cut this off. Because if it's cocked in there a little bit sideways, it was hitting that suspended floor. Now that I cut that off, if it hits the suspended, if it's cocked a little bit, it can just rotate on around. I'd like to get this fitting a little bit better though. That's better. Now I can get closer to that feed cover. There you have it. Now I'll get a lot of use out of that. That's what I'm going to start using. Even though that one's not worn out, I'm going to go ahead and start using this one. All right. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Let me get this mess cleaned up and I'll turn you back on. All right. We are ready to try this thing out. Pot supports. Feed hole cover. elevated floor, sitting on those self-tappers, 3/8 by 1.5" bolts for legs, and a drain hole in the bottom. And so that the world will know this was made out of a paint can, we'll leave this thing here. Let's go ahead and burn it off. That was a delayed reaction right there. Alright, y'all. I'll give you some parting shots of this can when all of this catches and it's flaming up real well. But I appreciate you joining me on this one. Once again, check out all my other videos in my Hobo Stove build playlist. It's just 3 of them, but every single one of them are different, and they're going to be different. Even if you use the same can a lot of times, if you're trying to make old materials, nuts and bolts and sheet metal, expanded metal, if you're trying to make all that conform, even though you use the exact same can, you're still going to have to modify it and improvise. So I appreciate y'all joining me on this one. We'll catch you on the next one.